In the 20th century, Motown artists had 200 #1 hits and thousands of songs that hit the charts. With that caliber of talent and songcraft happening around the clock at the studio, it's kind of easy to see why those songs are some of the most remembered in history.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
So we wanted to find out what makes Motown sound like Motown, and how close can we get to making a recording sound like Motown today?
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough to keep me from getting to you, babe.
Tamla Records was founded in Detroit by Berry Gordy in 1959 and was incorporated as Motown Records a year later. Gordy's inspiration for the Hit Factory actually came from his work at the automotive plants in Detroit.
Motown became an assembly line for hit records, from songwriting, arranging, recording, mastering, and publishing. The studio ran nearly 24/7, with Gordy hosting weekly quality control meetings to keep the operation moving at an incredible pace.
Gordy's approach and work ethic is what made the label commercially successful, but none of that would have mattered without a great product. It goes without saying that Motown saw its fair share of legendary artists, producers, and songwriters. But there was a reason why all these disparate artists' songs collectively had a sound that defined an era.
Between 1959 and 1972, the Motown house band, now known as the Funk Brothers, played on more #1 records than the Beatles, Elvis, the Stones, and the Beach Boys combined.
These musicians were working around the clock for over a decade, contributing their own individual tastes, styles, ideas, and instruments into a unique blend that collectively made Motown's music identifiable.
We may not have the Funk Brothers, but I've assembled a really hot band of pro players to play the arrangements live in the studio just like they would have at Motown.
Which leads us to our next ingredient, the studio. Motown was the opposite of the acoustically optimized facilities in Hollywood. The live room was a small rectangular room in a house with ceilings only slightly taller than average and cables dangling from the ceiling that earned it the nickname the Snake Pit.
In the early days, there really wasn't a lot of separation going on in these recordings, and it's that mic bleed from all the instruments playing live that also added to the vibe of these records.
But while the room setup sounds primitive by, say, Abbey Road standards, Motown kept up with the cutting edge of recording technology, from their custom-built Direct Box and Motown EQ to the latest and greatest from Pultec, Langevin, and Fairchild.
To get relatively close to the 16x26 live room, we enlisted the help of Raxtrax Studios, with Noam Wallenberg leading the session.
We are here at Raxtrax Recordings, Studio A. We have a similarly sized room as Motown. We're a little bit bigger and we're a little bit taller. We're making some acoustic adjustments in the room so that we can try to get it as close as we possibly can to that room sound. We brought in a bunch of baffles, which we're putting pegboard on the front of. That was a unique part of the Motown sound, was that they had a pretty small room and they had walls that were covered in pegboard, and it allowed the sound to permeate through and still reflect somewhat. And behind that they had a bunch of acoustic foam. So the songs we're working on today were from the mid to late 60s, and that was around the time that Motown had switched from 3-track recorders to 8-track recorders, and it was before they had gone to 16 tracks. So we're working off of our Otari 24-track machine, and we're limiting ourselves to 8 tracks of it. We're also using a bunch of tube preamps. We have Telefunken tube preamps here that we're using that are kind of similar to the ones that they were using at the time. And we're adding a bunch of Neve preamps, which are just helping with the track count that we're on.
And then there's one of the most iconic elements of the Motown sound, the echo chamber.
At one end, a loudspeaker. At the other, a mic. This is how an echo is produced.
This was actually a decidedly low-tech effect. A speaker and a microphone wired up to the attic of Hitsville above Berry Gordy's living quarters.
They had multiple chambers that were really reflective rooms that they built in the attics of the studios. They had an EMT plate, a 140 plate, and then they also had an Echoplex tape machine that they were using for slapback delays and things like that. So today, we are using digital representations of all of those reverbs, the UAD plate reverb emulation, and we're using the Altiverb chamber reverb emulation. And then for the Echoplex, we have a full-tone tape echo that we're using to approximate that sound.
The house kit at Hitsville has a lot to do with the signature backbeat heard on so many songs. By 1963, the kit was actually a second-hand piecemeal set made of Rogers, Ludwig, and other classic brands. There was also another kit at the studio for the sessions that required two drummers playing at the same time.
Drummers like Benny Benjamin, Richard Pistol Allen, and Uriel Jones would experiment by taking the front bass drum head off and stuffing blankets in it. Many times Kleenex was taped to the top head, or the snares were taped to the bottom head with electrical tape and mic'd from the side.
So for the Motown drum sound, they kept it really simple. We have 3 microphones on our drum kit, a 67 single overhead, mono, and on the overhead, because we don't have a 67, we're using a C12. A snare mic, which would switch out, but today we're using a KM84, and was an RCA 77 kick mic that was placed far away from the drum kit, so it was really capturing the entire kit, but it was getting all the low end that the other mics were not capturing. So as we were sound checking the drums, we were using pretty much the techniques that they were using, and we stuck Pultec plugins on it to carve out a little bit of the mud and add a little bit of high end. We still weren't quite nailing it. So I ended up going into the tape machine with a screwdriver and changing the biasing so that it would crunch up a little bit more on the drum set like it does in those recordings. And that's a big part of the drum sound we got today. So we're using 2 kits today. The miking is pretty similar, although we're using an U87 on the second kit and we're using a 57 on the snare mic. The tuning is really specific on these sounds that we're going after. So we spent a lot of time referencing the original tracks to try to get the tuning exactly right. And we also spent a lot of time playing around with taping different things to the snare drums to try to get the length of the snare drums correct and sticking different things in the kick drum to get the kick drum length correct.
Many Motown songs emphasize beats 2 and 4 heavily, and that was helped greatly by percussionists like Jack Ashford playing tambourine or other auxiliary percussion to spice up the backbeat and keep that groove moving. Oftentimes, the piano dictated the harmonic structure of Motown songs, and band leaders like Joe Hunter and Earl Van Dyke played countless hits on the 1877 Steinway that took up a good chunk of the room. Many times, multiple keyboards would be playing the same part to get that orchestral feel.
So the piano sound in Motown was a 1800s Steinway, which we do not have in our studio today, but we have our fantastic 1970s Baldwin, which sounds great. We are sticking a Neumann KM86, and it's just over where the high strings and the low strings meet. And we are using a KM86 because that was one of the most used mics in later Motown years. Right around the late 60s, they started trading in all of their mics for KM86s. So they're great flat mics and they sound great on piano.
I've got sunshine on a cloudy day.
Now you can't talk about Motown without talking about James Jamerson and that bass sound. Jamerson's grooves were some of the most solid and complementary bass lines in the history of pop music.
So the Motown bass sound was a P bass strung with flat wounds, played with a foam piece at the bass that kind of muffled the strings and made it a little bit more plucky. And that sound was captured with a DI, which was made by the engineers. And today we're using a company called Acme, which makes a very similar circuit DI box that is just a single DI box you can buy.
When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May.
Multiple electric guitars can be heard on most Motown tracks, from Eddie Willis's Firebird holding down the 2 and 4, to Robert White's 335 and Joe Messina's Telecaster following the piano or adding lead embellishments.
You may not know this, but the Motown guitar sound actually had 0 amplifiers. It was guitars plugged into that same DI box that the bass was plugged into. They all went into a mixer, and that mixer came out of a speaker that was just a studio monitor, basically, in the live room that would play all of the instruments together. And they would all sit pretty close to that speaker and monitor with no headphones on off of that one they were playing.
Strings, horns, winds, and percussion can all be heard on the Motown tracks throughout the years, and the arrangements of these sweetening instruments blending with the funky rhythm section are a huge part of the Motown sound.
So you may have seen videos of groups like the Temptations recording in the Motown studios with everyone crowded around, you know, a couple microphones and all the strings in there and horns in there. Those videos are full-on fake. I'm calling them out. So they would oftentimes record the rhythm section and then record the string section, sometimes even in a different studio as an overdub. And they were kind of pioneers of overdubbing at the time. Most people were tracking everything together. They would isolate people in isolation booths and record a bunch of overdubs on top of their tracks. We have the strings crowded around a Neumann KM86. We have the horns all playing into a single Coles 4038, and we were using that same Coles on the bells in that isolation booth.
There's a light deep down in my heart, although we are miles
Listen,
apart.
if you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there in a hurry, as quick as I can.
Hey, yeah, ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low.
In the early days of Motown, the vocalists would many times sing live in the room or an isolation booth. As their technology advanced through the 60s, they generally found that isolating and overdubbing the vocalists made for a cleaner recording.
The Motown vocal sound was usually a Neumann 67 or 47, and it was recorded with very little compression, very little EQ on it. They would record that straight to tape, and once it was recorded, then they would do quite a bit of vocal riding. That was how they would deal with the changes in dynamics, was rather than compressing and changing the sound a lot, they would just sit with the fader and ride the fader so that the vocals could come up when they're singing quieter and come back when they're singing louder. There was also a trick that they would do back then, and it was partially for dynamics and it was partially for character. They would take the vocal sound and they would duplicate it to 2 channels. And one channel they would keep flat with minimal EQ and with no compression. And the other channel they would add a lot of high end to, and they would compress pretty heavily, compressing with a Fairchild or an LA2A sometimes. And they were usually adding the high end with something like a Pultec. And they would push that up next to the lead vocal and ride them together, and that would add a lot of presence and brightness to the vocal without feeling over compressed like we oftentimes do.
I don't need no money, fortune or fame.
Another element of the vocal sound for Motown was distortion. There's oftentimes some distortion on the vocals, and that would come from hitting the tape machine too hard. If you turn something up into the tape machine too hard, it's gonna distort. Oftentimes in Motown, they would end up using the sound check as the final vocal take. They would take a one take of Marvin Gaye and they would be like, all right, great, done. And if he happened to sing a little bit too loud and it went into distortion, they would go with that, right? That sound is something that we are very used to hearing and kind of fell in love with, so we emulated that today by pushing the vocals into the tape machine hard enough where they would start to break up when the singers got too loud.
Here we go.
So the last things to mention are how we are routing everything to the tape machine and what's happening after that, how we're mixing it. We are keeping it true to what they were doing at the time that they made these recordings, which was we kept everything to 8 tracks. Now obviously we're using a few more microphones than that, so we had to do a terrifying thing, which is commit a bunch of microphones down to a single track. So our 3 drum mics all went to the first track. The second track got our 3 drum mics from our second drum kit and also got the tambourine microphone. Our third track got the bass alone. Our fourth track got the guitars, both of them together. Our fifth track got the piano, and it also got the bells. And on the other track that we had horns, we put the horns on an extra track. So we put the vocals each on their own channel, and we put the strings on their own channel. Because of that, some of the mixing is kind of happening while you're tracking it. So as you track the tambourine onto the same track as the drums, that is the volume of the tambourine track. You cannot change it after the fact. Same with the balance between different singers when you have them on the same mic, and the balance between the strings and the horns and things like that. When we finally start mixing it, we are doing pretty minimal extra processing. We're not really adding extra compression. We're adding a little bit of EQ stuff. Usually we're gonna put on some Pultecs that are gonna help us carve out some of the tubby frequencies and make a little bit more room for the vocals, which are gonna be the focal point of these mixes. During the mixing process, we also used filters to pull off a good amount of low end from these mixes, which is accurate to what they were doing at the time. They were filtering off around 70 hertz. We're also gonna add in our full tone Echoplex and our reverbs and things like that. And finally, we're gonna sum everything down to a J37 tape machine emulation. This is accurate to what they were using at the time. That mix would be done in 2 different ways. It would be done in mono and it would be done in stereo on 2 separate J37 machines. A lot of people prefer the mono mixes. We're choosing to recreate the stereo mixes today. The reason we're doing that is because when you have mixes in stereo like this, you can pick out the instruments a little bit better because you have the separation between the speakers, and it's gonna help us match these sounds a little bit clearer, hearing just piano on one side and just drums on the other side. It's also gonna help us isolate some of the reverb techniques that they were using at the time and some of the delay techniques that they were using at the time.
With all the pieces of the puzzle on the table, it's time to put them all together and see if we can recreate some of the magic that made the Motown sound.
Sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I've got the month of May. listen, baby. Ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
Now if you need me, call me. No matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from
getting to you, babe.
I remember the day I set you free. I told you you can always count on me, darling. From that day on, I made a vow. I'll be there when you need me, some way, somehow.
You know that there
Ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough
to keep me from getting to you, baby.
Oh no, baby.
No wind, no rain, or winter's cold can't stop me, baby.
Oh no, baby.
'Cause you are my
If you're ever in trouble, I'll be there on the double. Sing for me, oh baby.
My love is alive, deep down in my heart. Although we are miles
Listen, if you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there in a hurry, as quick as I can.
yeah, ain't
No mountain high enough,
ain't
no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby.
there ain't no mountain high enough.
Oh, baby.
Ain't no valley low enough.
Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe.
At the end of the day, there will never be another sound like Motown, but this was a really fun experiment that hopefully sheds some light on how things were done back in the day.
Let us know how close you think we got and what other studio sounds you may like to see recreated. And we'll see you next time.
For sure.